what we've seen.
In the past 11 days, 2 days have gone down in world history for the seismic shift they've caused in the world of politics. 8th September 2020 went down in history as the day Queen Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor II breathed her last at the age of 96, bringing to an end a 70-year reign. Also, 19th September has gone down in history as the day the world bid farewell to Britain's longest-serving monarch. The somber day started with the arrival of 500 world leaders, members of various royal families from Europe and Asia, in addition to 1,500 dignitaries at Westminster Abbey for the state funeral service. It was decided that all invited guests travel to the Abbey in buses in order to minimize car traffic, with the exception being 3 world leaders, one of whom was the American President Joe Biden and his wife Dr. Jill Biden, who arrived in their official car known as the Beast. Other world leaders who have been part of the service included French President Emmanuel Macron, Ireland's Michael D. Higgins, Chinese Vice President Wang Quishan, Brazil's Jair Bolsonaro, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, New Zealand's Jacinda Ardern, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The African contingent included Foreign Affairs Minister General Jjeje Odong, Kenya's William Ruto, Paul Kagame of Rwanda, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, and South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa. Meanwhile, in the biggest military procession that has been witnessed in London since the passing of King George VI, a 6,000-strong force of army personnel from the Royal Air Force, Royal Navy and 200 members of the Royal Marine Band moved from Wellington Barracks towards Westminster Hall, where the body of Queen Elizabeth II has been lying in state for the last 4 days. At 10:24 a.m. British time, senior members of the royal family led by King Charles III joined the army at Westminster Hall in preparation for the funeral procession. These included Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, Prince Edward, grandchildren Prince Harry, Prince William and Lord Philip. 20 minutes later, soldiers from the 1st Battalion Grenadier Guards lifted the Queen's body from Westminster Hall and onto the state gun carriage, which has been used for centuries to carry the bodies of members of the royal family, and other prominent British leaders offered state funerals. Afterwards, 142 Royal Navy personnel, alongside members of the Household Cavalry, kicked off the funeral procession towards Westminster Abbey. The Queen's oak coffin was draped in her royal standard, on top of which was placed her imperial state crown, her scepter and orb which she received upon her coronation, flowers in addition to a personal note from her son Charles III. The cortege arrived at the doors of Westminster Abbey and was welcomed by the clergy with the notes of Robert Croft's funeral sentences song ringing out. In the 1-hour service that was led by Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, the congregation reflected on the late Queen's life of service and dedication to her God.
Her late Majesty famously declared on her 21st birthday broadcast that her whole life would be dedicated to serving the nation and Commonwealth. Rarely has such a promise been so well kept. Few leaders receive the outpouring of love that we have seen.
After the service, state trumpeters from the Household Cavalry sounded the last post, signaling the start of a 2-minute silence for the Queen throughout Britain. At 12:15 p.m., the body was moved back to the state gun carriage, and in a solemn march, Queen Elizabeth II was led on a final journey through London towards her final resting place at Windsor, amidst the ringing out of Big Ben and gun salutes. At a few minutes to 4 p.m., her body finally arrived at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, where another funeral service was held before her burial. Today's ceremony has brought to a close 12 days of vigil and bidding farewell to Queen Elizabeth II, a woman born into royalty but who was never supposed to ascend the British throne and whose reign came to define the world's politics. Joyce Nakato, NTV Tonight.